Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for day 4 of the Sugar Detox Challenge. I'm so excited to have you here. So, welcome back. If you've been following along, and you could be following along with this anytime in the next month from when I do this, because these videos will stay out there so you can go and view them and get some help. So, if you've been following along to this point, have you been learning some new things? Are there some things that have been kind of eye-opening for you? Are you thinking about things in new ways or thinking about trying some new things? And who else do you know who is on a similar journey and needs help? My mission is to help women kick the sugar cravings and live healthy without deprivation or calorie counting so that you can have the energy for you and you can have longevity for your family. So I'd love to expand this mission, and you can be a connector in health if that is something that's interest to you. I can get you more details. Being a connector means that you can get a free month of coaching in my program. I actually just did a call last night with a person who finished 1 month of this latest program. She's done past programs with me, but she just finished this latest program to just see how it was for her, to collect some feedback. And she said, literally, this has been a life changer for me. I I'm sticking with this. This is a life changer for me. This is something I can do forever, which was just awesome to hear. I just love those phone calls. So if you want to be able to put this all together and have it be a life changer for you and get a free month of coaching, you can do that by being a connector. You can just drop the word connector and we can make this work for you. Um, or if you just want to join our next round and you want all of the supports, you want the coaching and the tools that I use with people that I know gets the best results, you can do that. Or if you have tools, products of your own that you use, that you prefer, that you just love, or you're sometimes people are just like allergic to everything under the sun, and that's okay too. And you just want the accountability and the coaching to be able to make this work. Sometimes having someone else who can look at things with a different experience can really help. So if you'd like more information about our Balanced Body Experience program, you can just type the letters BBE and I'll get that to you. So this morning, do I look a little tired? Do I look a little tired to you this morning? I'm very tired. I am running on fumes and fizz sticks this morning, trying to stay awake. So last night, this happens occasionally, thankfully not a lot, but Jack woke up. He was up in the middle of the night, like 1:18. I looked at the clock and then that number stays with me. 1:18 last night, he woke up and we had to like change his whole bed and get him changed. And then I ran yesterday because I've got a 5K race that is coming up this Saturday that I'm really not ready for. And I ran yesterday and I did not stretch or really do anything, which is a very bad idea. And my legs were killing me in the middle of the night. So then I got up with Jack and I did that stuff. And then I tried to go back to sleep. And it just, my legs were like really hurting a lot. So it took me a long time to go back to sleep. So I am just like literally like propping my eyes open with like toothpicks. So, so just to recap, on day 1 and 2, thank you for joining me. Just to note that I am streaming via StreamYard here. So if you are seeing me on a YouTube channel or you're seeing me on a Facebook business page, or then you can join us in the free group that is in the comments of the video. So I just wanted to recap that on day 1 and 2, we talked about the importance of protein and fiber to beat the craving. So this is really important. If you don't change, if you just try to just take away the sugar, so a lot of times people will do, I'm not going to eat sugar, and they just take away the sugar without adding in what you need in your diet, you will either feel, number one, like, I don't know what to eat. There is nothing to eat. Or number two, you will feel like super deprived. So you need to make sure that you're adding the protein and then that you're adding the fiber in, as well as avoiding the added sugar. So take care of the body first, because that significantly reduces the cravings. Now, it doesn't reduce the cravings entirely, because we still have to deal with our mind and with our habits and with our coping mechanisms that we have set up. So, and sometimes this is really just a complete change in perspective. So, I just want to share a little story with you. A lot of you know that I have two kids, so I am a parent of two kids. I have a typical daughter who is going to school in Boston. Um, Taking care. I see one kind, taking care of the body first, even if it means rough nights. Yep, that is true. Had a rough night last night. Um, so I have a typical daughter who is in school in Boston, and she's doing great. And I am also the mom to a child with some significant special needs, Jack. And some of you know Jack. So I remember when Jack was first born, we really had no idea what was going on with him. Now we have an overall diagnosis. We know that there's a change on a gene on the X chromosome. It's really a brand new change that they know about it. So it's not Fragile X, but it's a different change on the X chromosome. And the science is still catching up with all of the things that that actually means. We know a lot of the things, but we don't know necessarily like all of the things. But back when he was first born, 17, almost 18 years ago, nobody knew what it meant. They really had zero idea. They had zero idea what other things would crop up, how he would progress, why this happened, what was going on. I remember being in the NICU with Jack, and I asked the attending doctor. He had had all of these. We had an MRI, and he had an echo, and he had a this, and he had a that, all these different tests, tons of different genetic tests, and tons of different other kinds of tests. So after like 3 or 4 days of all these tests, I said to the attending doctor in the ER, not the ER, and the NICU, I said, "What does this all mean?" And he literally shrugged his shoulders and he said, "I don't know. Come back in 4 or 5 years and we might be able to tell you." Well, really, what it meant was come back in 16 years, and now we finally know. But in the early days of Jack, I was really focused on why. Why did this happen? Why? Why did this happen? Why do some people get 20 kids that are perfect, no issues? And why did this happen to us? So that was really all. Why did this happen to us, and what does it all mean, and what will happen in the future, and all of these things. I was just fixated on it, and I had a really hard time moving past it. And I really wanted to know what the diagnosis is and exactly what does this mean, and what do you mean you can't tell me? I remember being kind of like just really fixated about this. And I had a great neurologist. Jack had a great neurologist at that time who said, sometimes it's actually really good to not have a diagnosis, because then the sky is the limit. And he was really right. He said, sometimes when you have a diagnosis, it's easy to just live to this list. You have a list of things that this is what is capable, this is how things will progress, and it's easy to just feel boxed into that list. When you don't have a diagnosis, really the sky is the limit. And that totally changed my perspective, because then I started looking at everything in a way of, we didn't know this was going to happen. We didn't know he was going to be able to do this. So the sky's the limit. We didn't know he was going to be able to even sit up. And now he didn't sit up until he was 20 months, but he was able to sit up. We didn't know he was going to do that. We didn't know he was going to be able to, start learning all sorts of sign language. We didn't know he was going to be able to, speak in whole sentences and all of these other things that he's doing. And it really reframed everything for me in terms of everything that he can do is a gift. And it took my focus away from all of the lack of why don't we know this? Will he be able to do this? Will he not be able to do that, etc. So that was really what you could call a paradigm shift. So it really was a lens that changed everything, and it changed my attitude, and it changed how I reacted to things and how I felt and so many things in my life. And a lot of times this is happening in other areas of our life, and it can keep us stuck in the same patterns. So we talked about the protein and the fiber taking care of the body. We need to do that. But then we also need to deal with the triggers that are happening in the mind. So we can know what we need to do and still not be doing it. And that is because the lens that we are using to look at things. So, for example, how many times have you done a program or you read about how to change your health, or do whatever thing that it is that you want to do, and you're still not doing it? Typically, this is because there is some lens or way of looking at things that is going on that is kind of keeping you in that area. So, uh, and we set up ways of looking at things and ways of coping with things in our daily life that kind of keep us stuck. And so, yesterday we talked about triggers that, for example, you might have at one time had a bad day, and then you had something sweet and you felt better, and your brain made the connection that, oh, having something sweet makes me feel better. And that those two things became connected, and that was a lens that you could use for that situation. And then in the future, your brain knows, oh, I want to feel better. I need to have something sweet. That's a very simplistic example. There's all sorts of other similar kinds of triggers, or it could be when it's nighttime, you typically have something sweet, or you're used to feeling full when you go to bed, whatever it is. So there's a certain way of looking at things that we really get used to, and that we is a coping mechanism for us that we want to stick with. And so this piece of it is really important to begin to look at, because without handling the brain science of it, it's hard to continue. We're going to just continually kind of go back and be doing the same things over and over and over again. So it's important to be able to understand this. And the first piece of this is really just awareness, which is what we talked about yesterday. So we talked about yesterday about understanding your triggers. When is it that you get cravings? Is it always in the afternoon? Is it always at night? Is it on days when you're really stressed out? Is it when you're really tired? Like even today, I noticed that I want to like eat a whole bag of chips right now because my body has been before like, oh, that's quick energy. That's like quick carbs. So all of those kinds of things. Do you know what your triggers are? So first of all, it is really helpful to even just go through and understand what your triggers are. There are certain times of day. The next piece is I want to share with you a tool for emotional eating. So some of these things are maybe just habits that we've developed over time that we do. All of them are relating to some kind of state change that our body is looking for. So, or our brain is looking for. So we want to feel full when we go to bed because we just feel like we sleep better when we feel full, or we're less anxious when we feel full. So have you noticed that connection? Like I don't feel as anxious if I feel heavy and full, or just different state changes. Maybe you don't have energy and you want to get energy. So you're feeling that afternoon slump. So your body is trying to get energy. That's the state change. You want to get energy. Maybe you're feeling blue and you want to feel happy. So there's always some kind of state change. And sometimes also there is emotional eating in there as well, in terms of specific situations and the thoughts that we're having about those situations. And that's what I wanted to talk about today and about awareness. And this has to do with awareness of our thoughts and awareness in our bodies. Because to some extent, there are uh, there are habits that we can't think our way out of. So if we could have thought our way out of this habit, we already would have because we've been thinking about it a lot. So in many ways, we need to feel our way out of the habit, and the way out is through the body. So the tool that I want to share with you today is called NAIL, NAIL. And it stands for name it, allow it, investigate it, and look for a better thought. So when you're feeling, when you know it's emotional eating, so sometimes we're just like right now, I am just really tired, and the state change that my body is looking for is to have more energy. So it's not really a thought that I'm having, but it's just the situation. What I'm talking about is times when you are feeling really emotional. Somebody said something and it really bothered you or upset you, or there's a circumstance that you're really stressed out and you don't know how it's going to turn out, something like that. There's a trip coming up and you're getting kind of anxious about it, whatever it is. So we can use NAIL for these situations. So NAIL stands for name it, allow it, investigate it, look for a better thought. So the first one is to name it. So the first one is just literally being aware of what it is that you're feeling. Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling trying to think of other feel just sad? What is the actual feeling? Can you name it? Are you feeling apprehensive? Are you feeling worried? Can you name the actual feeling that you're feeling? And the second part is to allow it. And this sometimes is the hard part or the scary part for people because we want to run away from the feelings as fast as possible. We don't want to feel any kind of bad feelings. And you don't have to feel it for a long time. And I believe there are studies that read that the actual intense part of the feeling lasts for 20, 30 seconds. So if you can take 20 or 30 seconds, and if you know you're feeling, say, anxiety, so to feel the anxiety and feel where is it in your body? Can you tell exactly where it is in your body? It's in my chest. It's kind of here and kind of goes around here, and it's most intense here. And if I had to give it a color, it would look like this. And maybe it would be pulsating, or it's here. Wherever it is in your body, can you kind of just feel it, separate yourself from it a little bit? So just kind of observe it as if you were observing it in someone else for maybe, 30 seconds. Allow it, and then investigate, how are you thinking about this thought? So let's say that you had a conversation with somebody and you feel like, ugh, I don't really know what the person meant by what they said. And I'm not sure if they're mad at me or if they're trying to say something or if they're trying to, suggest something, or did I do something wrong? And say you're, just sort of anxious about this situation. You can sort of investigate it and see, what is it that you're making it mean? You could be making it mean, I did something wrong, I did something bad, or you could be making the situation mean like I'm a bad mom, or I'm a bad friend, or you could be making assumptions that something is going to go wrong on this trip. It's going to be awful. This is my specialty. When Jack has things going on, I tend to awfulize it. And just project into the future that it's going to be awful. And most of the time, it's really not. So, what is it that you're making it mean? Can you look at it objectively? And then, can you look for a better thought? So, can you look for a better thought of, if you're feel weird about some conversation, you can kind of look at the situation objectively and say, I really think this is fine, and I can get some input from a third person and see what they say. Or I can check in with this person. Or this does not mean I'm a bad mom. It just means I had a bad day. Or I am projecting into the future that something bad will happen on this trip. And I don't have a crystal ball and I don't actually know that that's going to happen. So you can kind of call that out. And everything has been fine in the past. And I know it will be fine. We'll figure it out. So, and I think it really helps to journal your way through this as well. So, and what you want to do is typically, this is often a place where people will turn to the sugar or the comfort food if that is a thing for you. So, if you're an emotional eater, instead of going through this whole process, you might have already just been eating the sweets or whatever it is that your coping mechanism is. So the idea is to start to just become aware of it, and it will take some time and start to sort of bring more awareness. So the first time that you try it, it might be after the fact. So you already had the sweets, you had the emotion, you had the sweets before you could think about it, and later on you were like, "You know what? That was really emotional eating right there." That's okay, that's still a win because you can still do this nail process even after you've already taken your other coping mechanism, which might be to eat the cake or overthink or whatever it is. And you can recognize, oh, that was a time that it would have been really good to do this other process first, but that's okay because it still is a win for your brain to recognize it. And so the time when you recognize it will get closer and closer and closer and closer until you can finally do it before you actually have take the other activity. So it just kind of takes some practice and eventually you'll be feeling the feeling, be feeling the thought, and be on your way to the cupboard to get the sweets for the emotional eating. And you'll stop because there, even though it doesn't seem like it, there is a space between when you have the thought to go get the cake and when you actually do it. There is actually some space there. So if you can bring some awareness to that and really, ooh, this is really emotional eating, and you've had some practice with this nail process, you can start to change this cycle and recognize this is a better way of a this is a better coping mechanism and you can choose that. So that is something that you can choose to just bring some awareness to this. So the homework for today, I realize I think I've been making this too complicated. The homework for today really just is check in, just share how are you doing? How are you doing with awareness about where is the sugar in your life? So even if you haven't done anything about it, and you're just kind of, "Ooh, yep, there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is." That's a win. That's a big win because nothing else happens until you do that. So that's the first step. That's a big win. Or maybe you have been making some changes and you have been eliminating the extra sugar. Maybe you also have been adding in more protein, adding in more fiber, and removing the sugar. So the homework is really just going to be to check in on how you're doing with the sugar detox challenge of eliminating or at least reducing the excess sugar, adding in the protein and the fiber, and then just start thinking about some of the emotional eating topics that we've been talking about. So I have been checking in with some of you that the eating piece of it is super helpful. So I will continue to check in with you and see what ways we can help you make some progress. And I will post the homework today. And here's the way that the challenge will work as usual. So you will have until Monday to comment on at least one post from each day. It doesn't have to be every post, but just something from each day. So if you're able to kind of stay in touch with the material, just stay engaged, learn something from it, and just be aware of reducing the sugar each day. As long as you're engaging on Monday, I will go through of all the people who were consistent throughout the challenge, and then I will choose a challenge winner. And I am a little bit behind on sending out my prizes for past challenges, so I will be getting to that just because we've had just so many appointments. Um, so I will be doing that. So I will post the homework for this soon, and you will have until Monday to catch up on that. These are all in the guides. All right, I'll see you in the group.